very hard to govern effectively. It's very hard to govern effectively. So the United States Digital Service is bringing in some of the most world-class engineers we can find in the country. Convincing them to often from San Francisco to leave the beautiful weather, great view of Washington, D.C., and work inside their government. Mission-critical pressing services the government has to offer. So we're talking about things like immigration, which many of you have probably, I don't know if anyone, actually these are kind of things that you've actually interacted with the United States immigration. Right? Lots of paperwork, making it a lawyer to figure out how to get access to it. We're working on taking that process right now, which is entirely paper-based, and moving that online and making it actually rather than I'm working on veterans benefits, on federal student aid, on Social Security, on all the things that matter most that governments will provide for citizens, and actually working on rebuilding a modern. So that's kind of one of our most projects happening right now. And before the United States Digital Service got started, actually it's been a long road. As many of you are probably kind of familiar with the birth of open government, which started in the first day of the president's administration. He released something called the Open Government Directive, and it's been an interesting evolution from that time to help government understand how it can actually be benefited by being transparent, by opening up data, by collaborating and partnering with citizens to actually create better products and make sure that it was doing it on its own. And we kind of evolved through through learning very basic tactics that can help improve products to actually co-creating with citizens and then moving into a place where we're actually looking at the underlying systems that are incredibly dysfunctional and bringing in technologies to help with those now. So it's been sort of an outside-in and now inside-out process. It's been very fun to watch. So I don't know if there's any specific parts that you guys want to talk about. I'm happy to talk more about the Open Government Directive or the Open Data Policy, which is one of the executive orders and policies that I wrote for the President a couple of years ago, or the United States Digital Service, whatever you're interested in talking about. I'd be more than happy to dive in deeper. But I would also love to hear about the projects you guys are working on as well.
Well, I'll start maybe by asking, you were saying something about the process that starts from outside in and then inside out. Could you maybe explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, I think, actually, I don't know if you guys know Van-Jones. He's in the United States, he's a very famous activist and is now on all the news shows on CNN and whatnot. But he has a very amazing quote analogy that he uses. Where when he was an activist and he was young, he likes to say that he used to think politics was like a man walking on a tightrope, and the whole goal was to push the person to the left or push them to the right, whatever your ideology was. He's like, as I've gotten older, I've realized that it's not about pushing the person off of the tightrope, it's about actually moving the room. And I think that's sort of the evolution that we've seen with open government, where you need the advocates, you need people from outside pushing to make sure everyone's going further and everyone's doing everything that they can to kind of to push the envelope. But we had for so long not actually looked at doing this from inside as well. And I think it's an amazing partnership when you have people pushing from the outside and people doing from the inside, and when you can actually kind of co-collaborate on building things together. So one of the foundations that we in the United States that does something that's very similar to what it sounds like you guys do here, the Sunlight Foundation, has been a very great. Recently, we've been actually collaborating on a lot of products where we're actually building things together instead of just saying, the United States government should be releasing more data. It's actually, we're building all of the data management platforms that we're using are open source, and so their engineers are actually able to contribute and help make their products better than actually just talking and saying this should be done differently, but we're able to do differently together than just talk about doing differently, which is, I think, been a great evolution of where the movement has started. So.
How have you been? Sorry, okay. I have so many questions.
I have two more. Okay. Yeah. The first question is there a country, European country or something like that, which is your role model?
Which is a role model? Yeah, that's a great question. We right now are spending a huge amount of time with the UK government because they have been doing similar. Actually, they've been doing very similar work to the United States Digital Service. They've got a couple years ahead of us, believe it or not. But so the United States Digital Service was sort of birthed out of the healthcare.gov fiasco, which I'm not sure if that news made it all the way over here to Israel. Yeah, a horrible crisis, or whatever the the phrases about not wasting crises. But so healthcare.gov actually crystallized for our government what happens when you don't prioritize user needs and when you don't have technology and the geeks have a seat at the table. And the UK government actually had a similar failure when they were trying to do integrated health records for citizens, and it was a colossal disaster, millions of dollars just like ours down the drain without anything produced. And out of that they built the GDS, the Government Digital Service, which is a centralized cabinet office hiring the best of the best from the UK's technology scene to go and systematically redesign the top citizen-facing services. So basically the exact same play that we're doing now as well. And they started, but it's been very interesting kind of the different approaches that we've been taking, but we're fascinated by how they are getting their things done, and we have different approaches but the exact same principles and goals, but we have different governments. So the UK is very centralized and has a lot more central authority, and the United States government is much more federated and distributed. So we have a bit more of a top-down, bottom-up sort of movement that we're building. And we have a lot of authority from sitting inside the White House building the headquarters team, but we are networking that with 2 other layers, including teams that we're building at each of the agencies. So I don't know what the corollary would be in Israeli government, but usually like the departments that make up the entire government. And then underneath that, we're building an engineering team that works across all the agencies and looks at government-wide platforms, so things like identity management and all of the things that all the agencies need. And the UK government is building everything in one central spot, and they are actually taking the services over from the agencies and just building it internally and then giving it back, or if they are not capable of running it, taking it themselves. So it's a little bit of a different approach, and we're excited to sort of see how it evolves and how those work together, but we're very inspired by the team in the UK. They're doing absolutely incredible work, so it's been fun working with them and watching them.
Second question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you found a special approach or method you use when you want to make this project a little bit more effective, like, I don't know, MVP, something like project management approach, which helps you get things done in just the way?
I think the thing that is most important than anything is user testing. We do everything agile, which is unfortunately pretty new for government. Our entire operation is built on waterfall methodologies, and we do the same thing, whether it's buying pencils or procuring software or building software. We kind of buy and build the exact same way, which is frankly not effective in today's world where technology changes so quickly. And when you need to actually incorporate user needs and user testing and actually see how the products work, and that's not necessarily how the processes go today. In government, we usually come up with a policy idea, which is let's give citizens healthcare and here's all of the regulations and rules for it, and then we lob it over the fence to the agencies to figure out implementation, and then that goes to the engineers who code away, and then something's released. And nowhere in that process are people actually asking if this is solving the real question or the real problem, the real need. And so one of the things that we have been working on is bringing in user research. Some of the leading experts in usability and user research in the United States now work for the United States Digital Service, which we're incredibly excited about. And they've been spending a ton of time with agencies and teaching people how to actually listen to users and how to do this research. And we've been going for things like the immigration processes. We've been flying out to the service centers, which are in the middle of Nebraska, which is like the middle of nowhere in the United States. Like no one goes to Nebraska ever. And when the leadership, when we asked to go there, the leadership was like, why would you ever go to Nebraska? Like, because that's where the people who are running your systems are. Like, why would we not go there? And it was a very kind of aha moment that this is who you need to be building these tools for. You need to sit next to them and see how they're being used, because you can't always ask, you have to see. So I think that's the most important part of the process that we're trying to bring into it, is in addition to Agile.
In the case of immigration specifically, isn't it part of the fact that the process is so cumbersome a way of making sure not a lot of people apply?
That's not the intention of it.
And to
it might be a byproduct, but it's not.
And to make sure a lot of American lawyers have a good salary.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate. So yes, that is the reality today. there are many lawyers that make lots of money off of helping people navigate the immigration process, but we fundamentally in government believe that is not how it should be. That our services should not be so complicated that you can't actually help the people they were designed to help. And if that's the case, we're doing something wrong.
But it is helping the U.S. in a way, because in a way it makes sure that people that can afford to support themselves can make it in.
I don't think the lawyers who are making a ton of money off of the poor immigrants who can't deserve or don't deserve or have to pay them is actually impacting our GDP enough for it to be a policy that we're trying to improve. But no. I mean, your point is completely valid. Is that it shouldn't be this way, and today it is, and that's why we are trying to build more simple, easy to use services.
Actually, I'm going at another point, which is something that we're kind of thinking about here when we're trying to imagine if the Israeli government hires the best engineers, and there are very good engineers in Israel, and technologists in general, but when many of them not very excited about the Israeli government right now.
Yeah.
The question is how would you feel, or I'll frame it otherwise. How many of the people excited about moving into government are not excited about Obama?
Actually, so in the United States, we're at a very interesting point in our relationship with technology companies. You might have heard about some of the recent problems with NSA, and so needless to say that there is a lot of reservations, particularly from our largest partners in Silicon Valley, about coming to work for government. A lot of Silicon Valley tends to lean more independent and not towards Democrats or Republicans. They're a little bit more independent. And so our target audience, honestly, of the tech industry is not necessarily pro-Obama. And they're not doing this because of the president. They're doing this because of the opportunity to work on services that actually change people's lives. And that's the only sell we have. We can't offer them more money. We can't offer them, all the perks of working at Google, the free dry cleaning and all of those things, but we can offer them an opportunity to work on things that will make immigrants' lives easier, will make it easier for students to go to college, will actually help get veterans benefits. And I'll give you our real secret, which is our little bait and switch. We often, when someone's sort of interested in what we're doing and hear about what we're working on, they often say, "Oh, I can't leave my job. My family's in San Francisco or New York or wherever, but I can come for maybe 2 months." And we try and get people to come for what fits our sabbatical programs, and they can take short leaves from your Upwork, Facebook, wherever they're working, and they come out and they work for a couple of months. And we have had 66% of the people who have come out for 2 to 3 months go home, quit their jobs, pack up their houses, and move to DC to stay working with us, because it's so amazing getting to work on these incredibly challenging problems that have so much impact and meaning. And another little story from one of my favorite engineers that's been working for us, he was ending his sabbatical and going back to Seattle. And he pulled me aside and he was like, "I need to give you some advice." He was very sweet. He was some very, very important advice about the offboarding process. Sure, what's up? So you should probably offer therapy for people who are going back to their old jobs, because you feel so meaningless going to work. And he's like, "I feel like I'm just transferring money from one rich person's bank account to another, working in ads." Whatever it is. And he ended up going back and then quitting his job 3 months later, and he's now working with us again. So it's the mission. That's all that we have. We have, it's kind of describing the 3 layers of the ecosystem: the HQ team, the HQ team, and then our team called 18F. We've got 40 people working in HQ. I think we have over 40, I'm pretty sure it's 24 are engineers. It actually might be 27. And then the bottom layer, we have 125, and almost 100 of them are engineers. And actually, if you include product designers and whatnot, it's actually like more like 70. Yeah, we're actually doing so it depends on the actual service we're taking over. On the bottom layer, we're doing all the development in-house. And then services, we're taking over services that have existed for 60 plus years, or in some cases way longer than that. And so we end up working, which means these services have a couple of attributes. They usually have hundreds of millions of dollars for their budget. They usually have hundreds of contractors already working on them, and they are already offering a service, which makes it very hard to turn it off and actually push upgrades because you can't disrupt the service. So we end up doing a lot of work with, and our engineers are very, very senior and come in and actually work with the hundreds of contractors who are already on the ground and kind of shift and change the development practices, introduce agile development, user testing, all of these things, and work with a lot of the people on the ground. But if it's a new product like identity management, we'll build it in-house. So.
The project you mentioned are all providing services. What about the other kind of government documents, opening data and providing better ways for the citizens to do some oversight?
Yeah, so we absolutely open.
Because in Israel, the only project that the government really does well are project that requires citizen state taxes.
Yeah.
It uses, browser compatibility, works on mobile, you want to pay if you want. The benefits,
and that's the problem, and that's the unfortunate part of it. It's the same in the States right now, and Jen Polka, who started Code for America, has an amazing phrase, which is like the most privileged people often don't ever experience what it is to try and apply for services or have to do with it. And so there's this gigantic disconnect. If you're wealthy and you're trying to buy a book on Amazon, you can do it in one click and all these things. And if you're actually trying to apply for food stamps, you often have to leave to go wait in line and leave your 9-to-5 job, which might get you fired, to go wait in line to apply for these services, and that's completely not fair. And we're disproportionately impacting the people who need the help the most. But to your point about open data and open source and everything, all areas that are near and dear to my heart, and everything that we build is open source. And we bake in open data and making enterprise level APIs and everything into the services that we build. And we're trying to do that to train the rest of government to show how when you do this, you enable so many other people to possibly, or to usually build services better than we can if you actually make that data available and open. And so we're trying to lead by example inside government and actually just start doing it so people can understand and see. We've got some amazing projects that I can't talk about quite yet, but there's been an internal struggle about building the service and just focusing on releasing a website. And we're like, this is not a website play, this is about releasing the data so other people can build even more impressive services and a whole plethora of them rather than the one website we're going to try and build. And so we're working on that right now. We're hopefully going to release an amazing API. It's going to be lovely. We're very excited about it. Yeah.
Do you have an example of a project that you created an API for something, then created your own project based on this API, but then the community, the internet, whatever, took this API and made something better than it, like from it?
Yeah, I'll give you a very small example that just happened a couple of weeks ago. So we were working on, one of the other kind of best practices we introduced is monitoring, because it's very hard to make your services better if you don't know what's actually happening. It's very sad to, not every, that's not the common best practice today. So we were working to make a tool available for free for all of the agencies. It was basically Google Analytics to understand what was happening on the federal web presence. And we released a dashboard of all of the data. We made it available and open. And the agencies were very nervous about making this data available. So we started with a pilot that was just closed, so only the agency could see their data. And then we shared it with the rest of the internal to government, so all the other agencies could start comparing what was happening on their online traffic to the other agencies. And then we made the data available to the public. And we built this dashboard, which was all open source code, and we released the code. And in less than 2 weeks, there's a city of Philadelphia that started. They took the same dashboard and used it to release all of their government traffic. And the city of California the state of California did the same thing. I think there's now 6 cities and states that are using the same dashboard, which costs them no money to develop, and they're actually contributing code back to make it better and improve. And so I think it's very interesting in the states in particular when you have so many layers of government and there's so many common needs. start looking at how we can actually, I mean, open source is just so perfect for that environment because we can build things at the federal level, states and cities can implement at their level, and we can all contribute back and make it stronger. And citizens can, can also help as well. So that's one small example that's just happened now. We just released a dashboard a couple of weeks ago. So.
How did you get the agencies to agree, or you just tell them that they had to publish this information? And it seems to me like that might be probably the most difficult.
Yeah, this is the secret sauce. We do top down and bottom up. So we say, thou shalt use digital analytics, but we don't stop there. So we have the mandate that comes from the White House and the policy requirement that makes agencies follow whatever the policy is, in this case using digital analytics. And candidly, when I showed big government, that was the end of the conversation. It would be a fiat from on high, it would be written out in a memo, and it would go to the head of the agency, and it was like, good luck. Either you're going to be compliant or you're going to go off and build it in your own way. And what we started really thinking about differently is how can we help agencies get there using common platforms, and then actually, so we procured a common government-wide tool, so it was very turnkey. So they didn't have to think about what they were going to procure, they didn't have to figure out what tool to use. And then in addition to that, we actually hired a small team to help the agencies implement the code when they were having challenges doing so. And they could roll up their sleeves and actually spend time on the phone or over to the agency and help install the code snippet onto all of the websites. So it was a combination of saying, yes, you have to do this, but also we're going to help you, and here's the tool that makes the most sense and is the most effective, and let's do this together as a community, rather than just the fiat from on high. So that's been a very effective process, and that's honestly one of the pilots, if you will, of the United States Digital Service, and why we're taking such a hands-on approach now of working with agencies to get this done rather than just telling. So it's been pretty effective so far. Yeah.
So
until the morning.
Are the people that you're approaching and the people coming in, what's the profile of these people? Mainly working for Silicon Valley, working for big corporations, or digital activists